me see. All right, hello everyone. I think we are live. I'm just trying to make sure that we are good to go. Welcome everyone. This is Brock Yoga. I am the founder of Forescape Digital Freight Forwarder. I have two incredible guests. I was actually posting a nice short video on LinkedIn telling that it's like all-star. Both of them are like fan of NBA. And Bradley from the West Conference, and then Kian is actually also a fan of West, but now he's in Dubai. So technically West and East. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm very good. It's 10 p.m. here in Dubai, but nothing I'd rather do than be on a webinar Friday night with you guys.
Absolutely.
Seriously, do that. Yeah.
We were just talking about it. So I'm really happy to have both of you guys. I was just telling people that I think 1 hour is not going to be enough today. There have like so many things that we can actually cover today, and both of you are like really appreciate for your time and joining me here. Like I feel you guys are both very knowledgeable about like a lot of different things, and more importantly, always helping people. You two, especially Bradley, congrats on the 400-ish, even more than that. I think episodes. Kian was there. I'm not saying I was jealous. You know, the fourth time record holder, Kian. I'll be going there, man, to catch you hopefully soon.
Yo, Bradley, I need like a WWE belt or something like that, or like a championship ring. You know what I mean? Like something for like you know what I mean? We need some awards for
that's the new, like, instead of like, ClickFunnels big thing, like we should have one for the podcast veterans like yourself. Love it.
All right, so guys, I think we could talk like nonstop with so many different things outside of the business. Hopefully, one day I'll do that as well. Like only like a social gig, a lot of things. I was with Kian 3 weeks ago in Dubai. He's a great host. Anyone who wants to go visit Dubai, you should let Kian know. He's a good guide. And Bradley, hopefully I'll see you in 2 weeks in Helium 10's headquarters in California. So, but today's episode, I'd like to talk about a lot of different things, especially the new updates about what's going on with Amazon's inventory management side. They have changed again some things, especially you can now get your own space, even like you can ask Amazon to increase it. I'll be asking about that to Bradley. There's sort of a new way of like auction. And China is opening. That's very incredible news. I just was watching Bloomberg right now. They're expecting a big actually jump after the opening. Hopefully, we have seen a lot of different things in 21, 22, especially e-commerce and Amazon sellers. They see some slowdown. I think that's something that I will be asking Bradley, with the economy actually. And Kian, you will be traveling to China. So let's go with how was 2022 for you guys. Let's start with Bradley for Helium 10. You guys have developed a lot of new trainings. I was in the 3.0 Freedom Ticket. How was 2022, do you think, Bradley, for e-commerce and Amazon sellers regarding the sales wise? I see that some of them start losing their profits. They had over inventory because of the previous year. What did you see in 2022?
Yeah, it was one of the more unpredictable years, and then that's saying something. Especially, we just went through the pandemic in the previous years, But I think what happened for a lot of sellers is that they might have thought that the huge increase that happened during the pandemic was just going to continue that way, or even possibly going up. So, like you said, yeah, a lot of people might have been overstocked and maybe overestimated things, and sales, kind of went back to how they were pre-pandemic, and so from people's standpoints, especially the people who started selling on Amazon during the pandemic, to them, it's like, oh my goodness, sales are way down, and this is like really bad, and it's a bad situation. But in reality, it just kind of, the market kind of corrected itself, and it's not necessarily that the sky is falling or anything, but just whenever you go through these kind of things, you can't really predict what's going to happen. But the one big thing that obviously you know more intimately about than most is how shipping prices finally came down. and it was tough. Like there's people who couldn't make profit almost anymore because all of
Right.
their profit went to the container prices that just were going crazy. But the ones that persevered and who were like, you know what, fine, I'll take this order with almost no profit, um because I'm gonna stick through it, and they didn't give up. Now they're sitting pretty and making making a lot of money. So I think it was a very strange year. The one thing that I think is a theme on the Amazon side, at least, is more than any other year, like Amazon is releasing more and more data points, more analytics for sellers, and that's really great. Before Amazon really didn't give you much information, or much, unless you were like a vendor. Like if you had a vendor
Exactly.
central account, you had tons of stuff available to you for analytics and fancy stuff. But 99% of sellers couldn't access that stuff. But now, through more advanced brand analytics and search creative
Yeah.
performance, product opportunity explorer, and
Demographics.
PPC.
You can
Yeah.
see, yeah, you can see who buy your product. Actually, people should be leveraging that data. A lot of
Mhm.
people I know that Amazon says they don't really leverage the information. They can actually optimize their pictures, their A content according to who comes to their listing, who purchased it,
Yep.
what age, who is looking to buy product for who. I think all this data like really important to be used. And like Helium 10 is, I think, #1 software in the market that you can actually look into the data. So we'll come back to the demand part, but let's talk about Kian, that what you're thinking about China is opening. So I lived in China 8 years. You lived in China 7, 8 years. We've been doing with China business like 10 years, 12 years almost. Both of us. We talk to suppliers every day. They, I think until a month ago, they used to have COVID tests every single day. And then China finally switched really fast, then saying that, okay, we're going to open the doors, people can go out, people can come in. So how do you think it's going to affect? I think that's going to be mentally also people affecting really positive, looking into the business. They will be probably expecting more visitors, the key clients. So many people maybe were waiting to develop new products, but they couldn't because they wanted to go to China. So what do you think the sourcing part is going to change from everything online into in-person actually events as well as like factory visits?
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, it's very necessary. Let's put it that way. So for those who don't know, like China opened up at the start of the year, so just literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they opened up for their own population, for their own people, and kind of like the rest of the world, what they went through like a year and a half ago when they first opened up, they get a ton of new cases. So everyone's like, like got that thing, got a situation. So it actually short term affected a lot of production right before Chinese New Year, because Chinese New Year is actually this Sunday. So be sure to send a nice greeting to your suppliers. For anyone who hasn't done that already. But it actually had a short-term, really negative impact as a result of opening up, because a lot of people couldn't go to work. But long-term, it's going to improve things massively. And for those of you who are thinking, hey, I want to travel to China, what's the situation? A lot of us have like visas, right? Where we've been to China before. A lot of people get 10-year visas. Any visa that was issued before March 2020 has been cancelled, so we need to reapply. And for you to reapply for a visa, whether it's your first time or if you're going back and you're returning, all you need to do is get an invitation letter, a letter of invitation, either from the Canton Fair website or from your factory directly. And then once you get that, go to the embassy and apply. And they're only issuing commercial visas right now, not tourist visas. So if you want to go visit the Great Wall, that's not on the cards. But if you want to go visit your factory, go to the Canton Fair, you can absolutely do that. And I would say for any seller out there, this is a prime time to take maximum advantage, because none of us have really been to factories since end of 2019, right? So I personally feel there's been a lot of innovation within the factories, because even over the last 3 years, they've had like worker shortages, they've had raw material price increases, the shipping situation had a lot of impact on their orders as well. So things have changed a lot in factories. And from the factory bosses, like my friends that I talk to, a lot of them tell me, by the way, you're going to be really surprised when you come back into the factories and see what's happening. And I believe that they have invested a lot into like AI tools and things like that, and to really sort of enhance or be less reliant on a labor workforce. So for example, like if we're making like a backpack, if we're doing a sample, you would do like the paper cutout for the shape of the back panel. You would maybe draw that by like a computer, sketch it, go over it, and then it would cut it. And then you would use that to then make a board, a mold, and then the fabric, and then the sample. Now I'm seeing videos where that's just all done by like a laser. And it's like draws it, laser cuts it, like the really long fabric yards is cut by laser as well. So like there's going to be a lot of innovation, which I believe will have a short-term increase in price, but a long-term decrease in price, because as a result of this technology, they would have had to invest quite a lot, high fixed costs. Let's just say, for example, this machinery might cost $100,000, and they will slowly sort of
Right.
regain that cost by putting it into like the unit price. But then as a result, as it gradually fade out workers that they were paying a salary to, and bear in mind that the labor cost is actually increasing steadily in China. So now you're reducing your dependent on a labor workforce, and you're also hedging against that rising labor cost. Long term, you actually reduce the cost of the product because of this machinery becoming more efficient. So I really want to go just to get ahead of that, get an idea of, okay, what's cutting edge in terms of manufacturing capabilities. And not only that, is the Canton Fair as well, which will be on live in person, back for the first time since November 2019. It'll be in April and May. And for those of you who don't know, the Canton Fair is the biggest import-export exhibition in the world. It's over 3 phases. Any type of product you can possibly imagine is there. And these are the very good suppliers. There's over 26,000 exhibitors. And why I really like this, you know, like a pre-notion a lot of people have is that, like, hey, it's expensive to go to China. Why would I go to China when I can just sort of, develop my samples from home?
You can save so much more than that. Just like communicating with this, like one of your suppliers, and they can give you like 3%, 5% if you source in 3 to 5 product, and also the time, right?
Yeah, and just imagine even like the cost of your samples. So like, how much does it cost you to send a sample from China to the US? And then let's say you want to get 3 different samples, and let's say it's a bulky product, right? That sample freight might be $250, 3 suppliers, $750. It wasn't right. Now let's get another sample. So think about the time it takes to send that sample, the cost it takes to send that sample. Whereas that's also the cost of a plane ticket, where you can go to the Canton Fair, and not only do you see that supplier that you're talking to, but you have an entire hall of another 25 suppliers making the exact same product. And now you can touch and feel and see the product. You can share your product ideas and developments. They can tell you what's possible. They can make a sample for you within days and send it to your hotel. You can negotiate the price, you can build the relationship, and you can literally place your order before you even leave China.
And I think it's really important also to understand the type of people, because it's very difficult to understand. Like, there's always a saying in China that I kind of dislike. They're like, oh, we're a very professional manufacturer. But then sometimes when you meet people in person and face to face, you can actually understand how much they know about it. If they're a trade company or they're a really factory, you can actually understand, like, I think that's one thing that when COVID happened, China was already going from a cheap manufacturing country to high tech. You remember, I think it was like right before COVID, a lot of factories, especially in Ningbo in the north, due to the pollution, Bradley, probably you have some suppliers in the north. Some of them, like, they shut down, or they had like big fines from the government. China was like actually switching from being kind of chip manufacturer country to a high-tech industry. And then they also had a special program to bring back the overseas smart students. There are a lot of Chinese students, they study in Australia, and China had like this kind of entrepreneurship program that they kind of give out around like $500,000 to $1 million for the students come back from abroad to have a startup, like a digitalization. I think that's important. But when we go back to something important, Bradley, you mentioned like the data. Amazon start giving out a lot of data, and that Helium 10 is one of the most important software out there. So how do you think it's going to affect, like, if people have Amazon data, do they still need Helium 10? How it's going to affect you guys?
Yeah, it's actually better for us. Sometimes when new things come out, people will say things, oh man, Helium 10 must be mad because Amazon is coming out with this stuff. Like, no, like, we're happy because, number one, now people can have more validation points. They could see, they could see that, oh yeah, Helium 10 had it right all along. And then, number two, like, a lot of the stuff we can actually leverage to make even Helium 10, better. And so we love it when Amazon comes out with more data. The problem, though, and I have a podcast coming out tomorrow that talks about this very thing, is what happens sometimes is people don't understand how the data works, and it seems like it's conflicting. Even just, I'm not talking about Amazon data versus Helium 10 data, but just in Amazon itself, you've got so many different data points that seem to talk about the same thing, but then they seem to contradict itself. Like, if you look at the search volume in Product Opportunity Explorer, it's different than the search volume in search query performance, and the order is different than brand analytics. And then, your PPC data says something else. So it's like, you might think like, oh, this is, I can't trust any of this because it's all wrong, obviously. But it's not necessarily that Amazon data is wrong. It's just that they're talking about different things. So it's important that when you are using analytics, you understand that it might seem to you that, oh, Amazon is referring to one exact thing when it says, search volume or something like that. But no, it's like in one tool, it might be talking about, for example, normalized searches as opposed to denormalized, which, I didn't even know what that meant at first. But then when I was looking into it, it means, like, for example, if I were to search, coffin shelf, right now on Amazon, that's like one search. So that would, go for search volume. But the way that one tool looks at it, it only counts that one search. But if I hit back on my browser after I hit something, another tool on Amazon counts that now as two search. And then I go to page 2 in the search results. Now that's 3 searches. But like one tool in Amazon might be only counting that once, but the other tool is counting all those other ones. It doesn't mean one is right or wrong. It's just talking about different things. But at the end of the day, sellers might have information overload. So you've got to be able to focus, like, choose which one, you're going to look at and what's important to you, and then just stick with that. And then leverage it with the Helium 10 data too, because there are some things there's some things that Amazon has that Helium 10 doesn't. There's a lot of things that Helium 10 has that Amazon doesn't. But if you use them together, you're really able to get a leg up on the competition, because a lot of even big brands, they're using traditional marketing methods and traditional things, and they might not be looking at search query performance in Amazon or some of these other things. And you have the ability, if you're leveraging all the data that you have available to you, you are going to be able to, kind of like bridge that gap with the bigger brands who aren't leveraging this data.
And I think this will be also interesting point. I think I will ask this to both Kian and Bradley, but Bradley, maybe you can connect that. So do you think actually Amazon became more and more competitive compared to a few years ago? Because I know that so many people are making less profit. So where do you think they should be looking at first? Like, should they worry about, their listing is outdated, or they need to start playing around, look at their business reports and other demographic, the brand analytics, or they should be like considering, okay, there are like more and more competitors coming in, so I need to find different channels to promote. Like everyone is doing PPC exact keyword campaign right now, and the CPC increased pretty much like a lot of different categories around maybe 50 to 100%. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so it's like, in the nutshell, if you're just to simplify it, is Amazon more competitive than it was a few years ago? The answer is a resounding yes. It's very competitive. Now, is it impossible to sell on Amazon? Like some people try and say, like now it's like, oh, don't even try and sell on Amazon because the whole thing is saturated. No, that is a resounding no. But do you have to be more creative, with your strategies? Absolutely, because there's so much advertising, for example, that you could just take away all your profit if you're trying to compete in every single advertising module and things. And no, that's not the point of selling on Amazon. So you've got to, I'll let Kian talk about this, but like you've got to diversify how you source your products. The part that I'm always been passionate about ever since, Project X is diversifying how you find the products. Like gone are the days where you can just, hey, let me see what's the best sellers and let me go ahead and find the factory for this and stick my label on it and I'm going to have success. No, like you've got to be using the unique strategies. Like I've always talked about, looking at Pinterest and Etsy and using some of these new Amazon tools to, find. I talk about how we launched a coffin bookshelf, because in the product opportunity explorer in Amazon, I noticed that there was like, 99.3% of people who searched coffin bookshelf never purchased something. And like that was something that I would never have found unless I was looking at that Amazon data point. And then we launched a coffin bookshelf and, sold out like in a couple of months. So you have to be more creative with how you find product opportunity.
And that's right. I mean, Kian, it's not anymore like even Alibaba, you are creating a new course. Maybe you can tell us that, or maybe it's when it's time, you will announce it. I think you guys are posted right already. So I can say it. I can talk about that.
No, we haven't posted anything. So that was a lot of confidential information you just shared live on a webinar.
Ah, man. Right. So let's go back. Let's go backwards. So Alibaba, a lot of people, they go source products on Alibaba, but you do a lot of like incredible content. You have like a great Shopify core. You have a great like course with Founder. You will have like a lot of different new contents coming out, and then you been doing like sourcing a long time. So it's actually not only looking at the data, but it's like a complete process. So I'm actually really happy that I connected sourcing, master, me in the middle, like we do shipping and international logistics, as well as like 3PL supply chain, and then Bradley is looking at the picture from the data point. So what do you recommend? Like if you're a new seller, or like there are so many people last year, they kind of were about to launch a product, but then they get into like stock and crypto and they lost money. They're like, yeah, that was like a concern, like for a lot of companies, are even like, people are selling what they're going to do like with their money. A lot of people, they make good money in 2019 and 2020, 2021, but 2022 was like a really rough year. So if you're looking at the picture, go source a product. Where do you think they should be starting? Like not like copying and private label. It's not really working out anymore, because they're like probably another company who has like 5,000, 10,000 reviews, and they need to do maybe, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 giveaways. A lot of new starters, they need to understand that what is the private label needs to be done,
Sure. So I've got quite a few little tips that I want to share with you guys, and this is whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. But as we were talking about, 2022, it posted a lot of challenges, but now here's where we can really get ahead in our supply chain, right? So first, I would say I would always, whenever I'm developing a product, I would always ask myself the question, what problem am I solving for my customer? Because the best products are the one that solve problems. But as you guys were saying, there's a lot of product opportunities in the last 5 years where people were just making slight improvements, changing the color, changing the weight, changing the material. And then they were just sort of achieving success that way. But that's very, very challenging nowadays. So whenever it's like, rather than selling a product, you're selling to an audience. So what audience have I built? What community have I built? What product do they want? What are their wants and needs? And how can I solve that through a product? And that's something that I'm constantly asking myself, to be like, how can I deliver the most amount of value through solving a problem? And I'll give you a very, very quick example. Travel bag, which I was working on, right? Probably launch it this year. One of the things I know travelers love to do is watch movies on their phone or their iPad while they're traveling, right? So you got your phone out, and then normally if you're on a plane, you put a tray table down, you put like your hood, take your hoodie off, put it down, and then rest your phone on top of that. But then your phone always like falls down. So what I did was, in the zipper puller of the backpack, I made this clip that you just pull it out, turns into like an L-shaped kickstand, and then the phone just rests on the kickstand. That feature, that zipper puller cost me, I don't know, 15 cents, but it solved a massive problem for the customer, that now they can watch movies on the go, whether they're on a train or a plane or anything like that, and their phone or their tablet is not going to move. So it's like, what are the needs of my customer? What problems do I need to solve for them, and how can I solve that through my product, and then how can I communicate that to the audience? So that's something that I would constantly be thinking about when you're launching products in 2023. But on top of that, let's go to more of like a macro level now, like looking at our supply chain and things like that. I would always say, have a China plus one strategy, because if there's anything that COVID taught us, is that we can't rely on just one country for our manufacturing. It was right for people to look at Mexico and India and other countries and things
Vietnam,
like that.
Turkey.
Yeah.
They're like a lot of emerging markets for different type of products.
Yeah, do the research. They may or may not work for you. Like you can't like force a square peg into a circle, right? So like if you're doing electronics and now you're like, okay, I want to source those from India, but India aren't specialists in electronics, then you're not going to get the right product. But I would always look at what's the main raw material component of my product, and in which country then specializes in that raw material, and then I'm going to sort of work backwards that way. So have a China plus one strategy. On top of that, offer a sustainable version of your product as well. Sustainability is going to be a major, major factor. Amazon are actually rewarding brands which are sustainable. They have something called like Amazon Climate Pledge Friendly.
Right.
So you can shop, and this is basically whether your product or your packaging or your logistics or your factory uses like green energy, whether it's solar power, wind power, all that sort of stuff, whether your material, the product has come from a recycled source or a sustainable source, whether your packaging is recycling. There's about 25 different types of certification you can get to feature on this list. You can share that message to your audience. And a lot of people ask me, well, hey, recycled polyester is 10% more expensive than regular polyester. Why would I just get this product, which is 10% more expensive, and now I'm not competitive to my competition anymore? Two things I would say to that is that, one, that's just 10% increase in the cost of the material, but the main factor in your, let's say for example, 10% this material is more expensive because it's sustainable material. Well, the main cost of this product is actually the labor cost to cut and sew and stitch and quality control and pack and label. That's the main cost, not the material. So even if your material cost has gone up 10%, your actual overall cost of goods might only go up like 3%. So that's very negligible. The other thing is, if you want to go like full eco and like eco delivery and eco packaging and all that sort of stuff, maybe your cost of goods will increase 10 or 15%. And in that case, offer both. Like if you go to Nike.com and you want to buy like a football jersey, or I'm gonna call it football, you guys call it soccer. Barack, you're football as well, right? So you can like go buy like an Arsenal jersey, right? That's my team, by the way, top of the league. You can buy an Arsenal jersey, and you have the option to buy just the regular jersey for like $60, or buy the sustainable jersey for $100, which is made from like recycled plastic bottles. So you give the customer the choice. You're not saying that if I do the sustainable version, I lose out on this one. You can offer both. And then
I agree. Yeah.
Another really, really big factor to consider is your product defensibility. I think not enough people focus their attention on how can I be defensive with my product, in terms of like, they maybe make a small modification or change, but if you develop something of real innovation, you have to protect it. And there's three main ways that you can protect your product. One is through molds. So if you have anything custom that you're making, this is a custom design, custom shape, you're going to have a setup cost, whether it be like a plastic or a metal item. It might cost you anything between $1,000 or $10,000 for a mold. And if you do acquire a mold, make sure you put your logo on that mold, so your supplier can never copy it and make that for anyone else, because your logo is planted there. On top of that, you can get a design patent or a utility patent. Roughly speaking, a design patent costs $4,000, a utility patent costs like $15,000. And a lot of people ask, well, should I pay for this patent? Does it make sense? And I would always say, look at the value of your product in your order. So if I've got a $5,000 order for iPhone cases, I'm not going to get a design patent for $4,000 because I'm just adding $1 per unit cost roughly, right? And I'm not going to be competitive. But if I'm doing a new electric microwave and it's a $100,000 order and my patent is $4,000, I'm like, this is a 4% of the order cost. Of course, I'm going to protect it. So I would sort of think of it that way. So we talked about, what problem are we solving for our customer, having a China plus one strategy, having a sustainable version of your product, having product defensibility. And on top of all that, the cherry on top is actually now we have the opportunity to visit our manufacturer as well, to find out how our products are really made and get a firm understanding of the product development process, develop better products, build better relationships, get better prices, and then visit China and then encapsulate all of that to have the best 2023 supply chain.
I don't think we could summarize that better than that. Bradley, how sensitive do you think Amazon buyers when it comes to the sustainability? When the economy is doing worse than last 1 or 2 years right now, people are like probably more price sensitive. Do you think this is gonna affect a lot of Amazon companies, like Amazon sellers? They're trying to focus on the branding side, like influencers, TikTok. There are a lot of like live stream. I was in National Retailer Show in in New York 1 week ago, and retailers are focusing a lot on digitalization. How they can bring in more customer, how they can have a better customer service or customer experience, let's say. And Amazon is also doing a lot of like bundling 3Ds, and they have different features. They want to have like a better, because they also think that Walmart is coming to market. Etsy actually has been doing pretty well, Target or Bath and Beyond. TikTok, it seems like they're going to come to the market. Where do you see Amazon buying experiences going? And obviously that's going to affect the sellers. Instead of just buying and put their brand label on it, they can just put it on Amazon. That doesn't really work out anymore, I feel. What do you think about buyer side and seller side?
Well, as far as like, what you asked, and then what Kian was talking about, like having badges, it's not necessarily a game changer, but nowadays you got to, all of these things add up, so like, for example, that climate pledge friendly is a perfect example. There might not, there are some people who are like super, into that kind of thing. Me, I'm not saying I want the earth to die, but I'm not like one of those people who's like, let's save the planet and stuff like that. So like, I couldn't care less about that kind of thing. But that being said, even somebody like me, here's how that, for a buyer, when I say like me, I mean like a buyer like me, who doesn't care. I don't want to say I doesn't care about the planet, but it's not one of my priorities, in other words. But when you have those kind of badges, it sticks out, for example, in the search results. So whether I care about it or not, if all of a sudden now I see the organic placement of something I'm trying to buy at number one, and then right below that, Amazon threw in a widget where it shows the 3 climate pledge friendly items on that page, whether I care about it or not, that's just like another visual signal
Right.
for me to like make it more likely that I'm going to choose, that product. And at the end of the day, like if there's one product that has that and one product that doesn't, whether I care about that deeply or not, psychologically, I might go with that climate pledge friendly just because, there's like these psychological signals that are sent to me like, oh, this must be a better product, or like, like I'm doing my part, now for the environment.
Environment.
Yeah, but also all of these little things add up. That's not going to increase your sales 30%, but you do that plus 10 other smaller things. It might get each one of these might give you one sale, every 3 days. But now you start thinking, hey, I do 10 of these little things, I do 15 of these little kind of micro kind of strategies. It all adds up, and at the end of the year, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars more of
Right.
sales, that you didn't have before. So, as far as the marketplaces, go, yes, like Amazon kind of had a stranglehold online, and they still do. Like I can't imagine anybody, or any other marketplace ever overtaking Amazon, at least in the USA. Of course, in other countries, there's still websites like, like Bol.com, might be bigger than Amazon in the Netherlands, or, in Germany, there's some pretty huge marketplaces. In India, there's some huge marketplaces, but in USA, like Amazon has a stranglehold. But Walmart, percentage wise, Walmart.com is growing faster. I don't know if they'll ever catch Amazon, but I think it's important that Amazon sellers, if you've got your inventory in the US, look into doing it on Walmart, because it's not going to cost you that much money. Like there's not much risk. Like, hey, they've got their own FBA, WFS, as well. So like if you've already, whether you live in the States or not, or Walmart is getting a little bit easier now for foreign companies to open up on Walmart. Like a couple years ago, it was pretty much impossible.
They announced like international seller program. What is that, Bradley?
So that's like, like before, like unless you had like, established US corporation and all this stuff, like you couldn't. But from what I understand is now they're opening it up more to foreign companies. Carrie at Helium 10 is more of the expert, than me on that. And we have like a Facebook group, Winning with Walmart, where she answers questions like that. But I know that they're opening it up a little bit more. But if somebody had, even if they're a foreign company, if they have a US entity, then it's like a no-brainer, just super easy to join and get started. But I do see Walmart as really putting their best foot forward as far as trying to catch up to Amazon. And then, if you have a product that qualifies, like you said, Etsy has always been a great place. Like I've been selling on Etsy for a while, and it's so easy to make sales on there. And I usually have stuff like 20% higher, like 10 to 20% higher than my Amazon prices. And I can do decent sales on Etsy. So that's a great platform if your product qualifies for it.
That's an interesting question, actually. Brandon Young. Hi, Brandon, by the way. He's asking question, Bradley. What do you think about Chat GPT? Should we use it for Amazon listing and PPC? That's like so many things going on about this, right? It's just and they actually announced their website crash sometimes. What do you think? Do you think people should be using that, or it's like just too robotic? Do you think we should be more touching people's heart or buyers like feelings? What do you think?
You got to do everything, like especially for those who aren't native English speakers. It's very possible that AI, not necessarily Chat GPT, but any of those, there's a lot of them out there now, could potentially write a better listing, than you. Now I haven't dabbled, much into it, but it definitely is the future. I mean, it's kind of scary, some of the stuff that you see, like I see on LinkedIn. It's like, what, you just entered this and then it came back with this. It's like, imagine if I had this when I was in high school or college or something. I would never have to write an essay, ever again. And I don't even know what's going to happen in schools nowadays, but it's definitely the future. So it's not like, oh, if you're not using it right now, you're missing out or something. But I could foresee a future where, I don't know when, it's this year, next year, in 2 years, where it's going to probably get to the point where if you're not utilizing AI in any aspect of your like listing optimization, then you're probably leaving some money on the table, because that's definitely where we are going in this industry.
I
Yeah.
think not only the AI, but the Kian, I think that was, yeah, go on, man. I was gonna connect actually with the question, the
Yeah.
AI plus the digitalization, like, in the retail space, like especially supply chain, shipping lines and airlines are like actually investing billions of dollars for the real-time tracking because they lost so many cargo in the past. A lot of people, a lot of, actually like whatever the industry has like a human part of human touching that industry, like it's open for mistakes. Same as production, especially like in
Yeah.
China, you go to sometimes the factory. One of my friends actually, he's from Turkey. He came to China to visit me. I was living in Shenzhen, and we went to Shanghai together. And we went to this like parking sensor factory, which they manufacture product for like Honda, Renault, like General Motors, and then my friend thought that we're gonna see a factory like in National Geography or like CNN, but then it ended up like such a small factory, and he was like really surprised. Like, is like, do they really produce there? But so many companies they did so well actually last couple of years during the pandemic. The demand was so high, so they actually start investing more money into the production, the equipment, and digitalization. And Kian, you have built actually a lot of great sourcing tools. Where do you see the factories in China? How much do you think the awareness increased regarding maybe production optimization, the digitalization, and how do you think, so I mean, buyers can track their, or when do you think buyers can track their production line or production time? That was something that we suffered a lot. 3 4 years ago, Amazon sellers used to Amazon sellers used to buy product, ship it to Amazon, sell it. They get paid like in 60 to 90 days. But with the pandemic, it went up to 180 days maybe or even more. So a lot of people they suffer because of the cash flow issues. It's been a like long question, Kian, a little bit of commentary. I hope you didn't mind. But what do you
Yeah.
think? How it's going to affect the production, all this like AI technology and digitalization? A lot of companies are looking forward for that.
Yeah, so I can break down your long-winded question into three parts, right? So the first one I want to mention, that's a great point Bradley mentioned about like or Brandon or Bradley about ChatGPT, right? Is that this is a phenomenal technology. Like I can't actually get into it. When I log into the website, I barely get in, but when I do get in, I play around with it in terms of product development, and I've been absolutely fascinated by the results, right? Give you a quick example. I am, because ChatGPT is like, I think a lot of people use it like Google, and that's not the right way to use it. You have to understand like how to talk to it, right? And I said something like, give me 5 new product enhancements on the electric microwave which haven't been invented yet, and literally it gave me 5 suggestions, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. It's giving you product feature ideas now. And then I said like, okay, for option 2 that you've given me, something to do with like a heat sensor or something which was like touchless or fingerless or wireless or something like that. I was like, okay, write me a 500 word sales copy in the tone of Gary Vee's voice. And it's like, it writes exactly how Gary Vee would talk. Yo, and then like hashtag hustle, all this sort of stuff about a microwave and about a new feature that doesn't exist yet. And I was like, this is incredible. Like you could actually apply it to any industry, any product, and get product enhancement ideas and then get them to further elaborate it and then get them to write your sales copy about that new product, right? So I think that anyone who can log into ChatGPT, anyone who can get access to it, definitely play around with it in terms of like your product categories and see like where you can enhance. No need to hire me, just use ChatGPT and you can enhance like your product development, right? The other thing you mentioned in terms of like the information about your shipping time and where my goods and where all my cartons and stuff like that. When I first heard about, the blockchain and crypto and all that sort of stuff, that's kind of where my mind went in terms of like, the blockchain can give us very accurate information about our products when they're in production, being completed, in transit, during an inspection, which container they're on, which carton they're in, which warehouse they've arrived in, and which product has arrived at which customer. That's something I think it'll take maybe 5 years to build out, but that's where I see that sort of technology going: full visibility, full transparency, and full tracking. And then in terms of like the technology improvements in the factory, we kind of talked about it a little bit before. I think they've invested a lot in terms of machinery to improve their operations, to be less reliant on labor, because labor has costed Chinese exports billions of dollars in the last year by not being able to go to work because they were sick, or having to put the price up of their products because the labor costs got too high. And this comes down to the sampling process, the cutting of materials, the organization of materials. And if the more technological product it is, whether it's an electronic product or even if it's a cut and sew product, you can still apply these principles to the manufacturing process. But literally, if you don't know your manufacturer, if you've never ordered to them before, they're not really going to share all these videos like, hey, here's a video inside our factory, this is exactly how we make our products, because they don't know what you're going to do with that information. But to the factories you've already got very good relationships with, you should really ask these types of questions. How has your production changed in the last 3 years until today? What technological improvements have you made in your factory? How have you become more efficient? Where have you been able to save costs in your goods as a result of enhanced technology? And ask these questions to your factory, and they'll happily answer it for you, get on a call with you, and see where you can get a benefit utilizing their technology to offer products to your customers in 2023. And really, I also think factories do quite a bad job of explaining themselves. Whenever I ask a factory, hey, how'd you make this, or how'd you do that, I get some like half-assed explanation. But when I actually go to the factory and see it for myself, I'm like, right, now I got it. Like, this is why I make like products myself. So I think that like getting out to your factory yourself is where like the real learning will take place, and this is where you can really stay ahead of your competition going into 2023.
I agree. But guys, I think some people might be a little bit afraid of traveling to China right now. We were just like talking before we went to live. Bradley was saying that he's planning to do some like trip to Asia, and that he might just like add China on the way. I think it's a great opportunity, but people who can't go to China actually right now can actually invite their suppliers. That's another way of maybe meeting your suppliers face to face. Obviously, if you're working with like 5 or 10 suppliers, it might be a little hard for them to travel. But those guys are very open for, like, Chinese people, very internationally traveling people. They know how to travel. Most of them, they have the visa. It could be also a great way to invite them to your hometown and tell them, hey, you can have like a short vacation. You can leave the country. You can come visit me. You can do some travel. They really like doing that, and then they can come and meet you if you have like a good amount of purchase history with them. So this way you can also meet them. I think Global Source, Canton Fair, they're gonna have like a actual physical event this year. I don't know how busy it's gonna get. By the time I was traveling to Guangzhou for the event, it was like extremely busy. You can't even find the hotel rooms. But I don't know how it's going to be this year. Kian, are you going to do Canton Fair this year? Or you kind of want to just go and visit your factory and try to leave as soon as possible?
No, I'm going to do both. I mean, I live in Dubai now, and one of the biggest draws for me moving to Dubai is that I'm a direct, quick flight from here to China. I can get there in 7 hours. So I'm planning to let this sort of spike run its course. Chinese New Year, biggest people migration in the world. Chinese New Year is on Sunday. There'll probably be over 100 million people traveling across China. So I'll let that sort of period phase out. And then I'm planning to go back to China like middle of March, something like that. I'll probably go for like a week, 10 days, go visit some old factories, catch up with friends, just more have fun. I'm going to take the camera this time because now I've got a YouTube channel from before. I never had it when I went to China. So now I'm going to be like filming a lot of content in factories, how to make different products, show the production line, do the ins and outs of product development, which I'm super excited about. And then I'll just do a quick trip in March just to see what's the situation. And then I will go back in April, mid-April for phase 2 and phase 3 of the Canton Fair, and probably Global Sources in between as well. Just try and visit as many exhibition and trade shows as I can. And I will definitely be there for the Canton Fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about also to see what the suppliers are thinking. It's been too long. I couldn't also visit my office in Shenzhen. I want to go and see, my people, like talking to suppliers, maybe the carriers, like we can have like face-to-face meeting, which is very important. We've been already like 45 minutes, guys. Probably we will start wrapping up soon, but I want to talk to Bradley about like the 2023 strategies. Bradley, you mentioned a lot of different things. Obviously, there's no one key to the success, and you're one of the person who shares like your real experience and real strategies. You do a lot of testing, right? On Helium 10, you have incredible tools. You guys are testing a lot of different things, but you have your own different projects. You have a lot of different strategies, and you share that publicly, actually. So what do you think, Bradley, it's going to be important in 2023, different than previous years? people? Is it like social media? Is it like listing optimizations or something else that I am not aware of?
I think the key is to not be too distracted by all the new things. Yes, you need to be mindful of new strategies that come up and new trends, but like don't say, all right, I'm just going to forget about everything and I need to go all in on finding a TikTok influencer so my product goes viral, or I need to go all in on AI, or I need to go all in on, something else. And then you forget about the basics because it's really easy to get distracted by the shiny objects. But then at the end of the day, like I just saw a successful seller. I was on like a one-on-one call, and they're obviously successful. They're selling like 100 units a day of some kind of supplement or something. And then I took look at their listing, and it's like it's terrible. Well, like literally terrible. Like the worst bullet points you've ever seen. And so yes, they are doing 100 units a day, but if they would just do some more of the basics, even forget about TikTok and stuff like that, they could probably easily increase their sales 20 to 50%. And so my one thing I'm going to preach to people this year is absolutely, if you have the bandwidth, look into sending outside traffic, to Amazon, which is, going to be, it was important last year. And it's going to be even more important this year, but, don't do it. Don't do these new things at the expense of the basics, because that's the lowest hanging fruit. You just, you make sure that you have this important keyword in your listing that you didn't know about, but that you discover from a competitor. That's like a bread and butter thing, but that could literally mean multiple sales a day just by, advertising for this keyword. But you might completely miss it if you just are only going to focus on those shiny things. So, do historical research on your keywords. Make sure that your listing is optimized for what sellers, or what buyers are complaining about in your reviews and your competitor reviews. I mean, a lot of this sounds like hey, this is like freedom ticket 101, but you would be shocked how many even advanced sellers seem to have forgotten about the basics lately. That was just like shocking to me, as I do a lot of like one-on-one calls now with Helium 10 Elite members. And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but then when I start talking to them and seeing what they're doing, I mean, these are people who are doing millions on Amazon. So I'm like thinking, oh man, they probably have all the top strategies. I'm like, what? Like, man, you're leaving so much money on the table. So, guys, this is why I always say, also, like I said before, that it's not too late to sell on Amazon, or it's not so saturated or competitive. People are making a killing right now, even without doing all the correct strategies per se. So imagine if you came in and did all the right strategies. There's definitely room to grow on Amazon, even in 2023.
Yeah, exactly. And Kian, do you think people are also thinking too complicated when they're sourcing product? Because I know that they're trying to differentiate their products, they're trying to add extras, but then the unit cost getting really expensive. I think that's one thing that I realized this year, Bradley. I'm sure you're also aware of that. Like FBA fees are like increasing a lot, and inventory level Amazon increase. So people, they're like, oh, I have an incredible good selling SKU, but I cannot even ship it in. So I need to like find a warehouse to give me an FBM orders. Or people are doing like global expansion, but they are not even fully launched or fully ranked and even indexed are some of the most important keywords, and then they're trying to do, maybe just, we have too many distractions. Maybe that's where you are really right. I think that you need to focus on the cores. You need to focus on like the basics. You make sure you do them right, but then start like building additional traffic, additional content, but you got to do like things right in the beginning. So Kian, how important do you think start with the basic, finding the right product, the right features? A lot of people now, they go to read the competitor product, they purchase a competitor product to see what they are missing, what they don't have, they can add. But how do you think people are thinking when they want to source a product for the first time? I'm sure there are a lot of new starters will be also listening to this webinar, and then later on YouTube. Where do you think people should be looking when they source in a product? Where do you think they should be thinking, simple or complicated?
Yeah, I think with that question, I could answer that on an hour for another webinar. But what I would like to say is like reiterate kind of what Bradley said in terms of like in your supply chain. Like sometimes when you look at these really bigger and advanced sellers, you think they do everything perfectly. When you peek under the hood, you're like, actually, there's a lot of things you could be improving here. And one of the things I would say to everyone, no matter if you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, is to really, really know your numbers. And by that, I mean, like, how profitable are you? And something that I always ask to, like, no matter what level of seller I talk to is like, how profitable are you? And they're like, well, I do this in revenue. I was like, I don't care about your revenue. Like, how profitable are you? Well, I make about this. I don't care how much about you make. Like, how much do you make? Like, because I can calculate down to the cent what it costs to land something in the UK or the US, because I know the product cost, I know the container cost, I know the import duty rate, I know the storage cost, I know absolutely every single cost, and I know the destination of which it's going to, and then I can calculate exactly how much it will cost to land that product from China into that warehouse. And then from that, you know what your selling price is, what your AMS and fees are, and you can calculate exactly what's your profit percentage. And if you don't know that, like, I would actually turn this webinar off right now and just focus on, like, understanding your numbers, because if you don't know where you're at, then how do you know where you can improve? Because, you know, something Bradley touched on earlier in the webinar was, like, you know, getting 1% better in different areas of your business. And I always look at that in terms of supply chain as well, to be like, okay, every problem that we faced in supply chain in the last 2 years is not actually a problem. It's an opportunity for you to get better, because a lot of people think, oh, why me? Like, oh, my Trump tariff has gone up for my product. Shipping rate has gone up for my product. Well, if it's gone up for you, it's also gone up for your competition. So what can you do about it to have an advantage over the competition? Now, let's talk to our manufacturer in terms of, like, maybe let's export it rather than to the US. Let's export it to the UK. For example, the import duty on a backpack going into the US is 42%, going into the UK is 2.7%. We can reduce our cost of goods by 40% just by opening up a new market. Things like this. Work with your manufacturers to say, and this is something perfect anyone can do at this time of year, because after Chinese New Year is when a lot of factories do a lot of planning and forecasting. And you can say, hey, I'm going to give you a forecast order for the rest of the year. This is not a commitment, but this is a forecast. So you can see that we've been ordering 3,000 units per quarter. Roughly, we do 12,000 units a year. Our product hasn't changed in a couple of years. So what I'm going to do is give you a forecast order that I think this year we're going to sell 15,000 units. But what I want you to do is, as our manufacturing partner and us growing together for the long term, I want you to hold in storage, in stock, the raw materials for our 15,000 units over the course of the year. And that way you're going to have economies of scale in your pricing, because you've ordered all the raw materials for your product upfront at once. You're also going to halve your lead times, because all of those raw materials are now in storage. They're not making the product, but they're holding the raw materials. So when you place your next order 3 months later, they go to the materials they cut and sew and they make, and they send your product. So you're not wasting those 30 days for material preparation. You also have a consistency of supply, because now you've ordered those 15,000 raw material units at once, rather than ordering it 4 times over the course of the year. And now you're hedged against future price increases, as well as having the supply consistent. And you can also utilize your manufacturer's storage for free storage on your products. So there's so many different strategies we could talk about in terms of, like, where we can get ahead. But I would sort of look at your macro business and be like, what are 5 areas or 8 areas where I can get 1 or 2% better? And those 1% and 2% add up to 10%. And now all of a sudden, when you're looking at competition being too fierce, you're like, well, I've just saved 10% by making slight improvements in these several different areas.
I agree. So guys, let's finish this with personal goals of this year. It's been already 20 days this year. Bradley, I see that Helium 10 is doing a lot of new things, new tools, new features. I feel like you guys are I think, organizing in-person elite members training. Am I right? Do you want to tell me a little bit about this? If people now can be part of elite, I know that it was, like, limited. You guys have, like, more space. What's the goal for you personally, and then for Helium 10 for this year?
Yeah, so for, like, elite, that's like, like 97% of the year it's closed, and it's closed right now. Like, you can't even get in until probably March. We'll open it up because we have an in-person event that we're going to do around the Prosper Show, and so Helium 10 will have a big presence at the Prosper Show, as we always have. And so we'll have, like, a great elite, meet up there. Kian has spoke at elite workshops in the past and elite webinars. So it's a great program to be part of. And you get, one-on-one calls with me and things that I was alluding to. So we're definitely going to be coming out with more things for elite members, but, on a personal note, just from Helium 10 or just my own businesses, I kind of, like, really took my foot off the gas last year as my own Amazon businesses. And so, like, my sales were way down. So I want to launch, I don't even think I launched a new product last year for the first time in years. So I'm definitely going to be launching some new products this year. Maybe I'll get Kian to help me, with the sourcing side of things. And as far as Helium 10 goes, I think that kind of like the theme for me, at least, with Helium 10 is make sure get more training out there, because especially like I was saying, I'm just shocked at how many people aren't using a lot of strategies. So I want to get more training out there, and I want to see how we, I work very closely with our product team, and getting a lot of the tools that you see that Helium 10 comes out with. A lot of them I've worked very closely with them. When I say product team, not Amazon product, but our developers. And so I want to really make sure that we're focused on this year. I think they're going to do a good job with trying to give time back to Amazon sellers. I think a lot of the reason why what I said was true, which a lot of Amazon sellers aren't doing a lot of the basics, is because we're stretched so thin that we don't have time to do all of this stuff if we don't have a big team. And so, like, how can Helium 10 help sellers out there get time back, where maybe, whether it's through automation or whether it's through, us somehow doing the work, on the dashboard side, that we can give Amazon sellers some time back.
That's incredible. I think you are right. All of us are like distracted in our personal life, private lives. After COVID, people are coming back to, like, healthier lifestyle and then different things. I think it's really important to start focusing on, and then kind of fixing the things that you're missing maybe with your business. Kian, what about you? You mentioned you have like China trips, you have some trainings coming up, you have some new projects, something that you can actually announce.
Yeah. Well, you did that for me, but no, I'm joking. Honestly, just looking forward to the year. I just want to do more. Like I feel that like every year I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm trying different things, and I feel very, very grateful that I do something that I love, and just solving problems through products. And I'm honestly like a kid in a candy store. Can't wait to get back to China. Can't wait to get back into factories. Can't wait to, develop new products, negotiate prices, build new relationships, go for weird Chinese food at random restaurants. Like, I can't wait for those experiences, because I thrived off of that. And now I get to document the process. Whereas before, I never really posted any of that stuff. I never made videos around that stuff. And now I get to, like, I cannot wait to go back over there and just sort of enhance the content, enhance the education, and help more people at scale.
Yeah, I think hopefully I will be pop up one of the videos in the background in China, from the La Mian shop, or like one of the Canton Fair booths. I'll be like,
you'll be in the karaoke.
Yeah, exactly, Katie. I love. Yeah, I mean, the lifestyle, and a lot of people, they ask me first, oh, how did you live in China, or like, was it fun? And I was like, yeah, the first years were like really fun, but then my life started getting like really busier with the work and then travels. But I really like, crossing the border from Shenzhen to Hong Kong, and then take the subway or the bus, get off in Central, and then looking around me, the high buildings, and then walk towards exhibition halls. Like, it's incredible things. And then, in some point after living all those years, you start running into people on the escalators or on the stairs or in the elevators, that you kind of get to know people. I kind of miss that. I don't know if it's going to be ever going back to that kind of level, because we'll be traveling maybe 1 or 2 times a year. But I really miss also the time, like, just jump in a plane, travel to Shanghai for a day, visit the factory on the bund, have like a dinner, go back to the plane. It's been good times, like good years, I don't know how it's gonna be ever back. But guys, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure, both of you. Like, we're really we're good friends, and then sometimes see each other like in different events. Life is busy, but thank you for jumping on the webinar. I know Kian is really late over there. Bradley is just almost starting the day, but I'm sure he has a lot of things to do. But it's been a really good value. Really appreciate, guys, and hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for looking, bro.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.